Super Rugby Round 4 Saturday games kick us off with probably the best game of the round, at least on paper. That is the Hurricanes up against the Crusaders. Before the season started, the bookies had these two as equal favourites to take home the title just ahead of the Lions. So it is that kind of clash of the big boys pretty early on in the comp. So yeah, Hurricanes are at home. Crusaders are the form team. It's really going to be one to watch. So for the Hurricanes, yeah, they've been a bit patchy so far. A loss to the Bulls, which was unlikely, and for large parts of that game against the Jaguares, they were just messy, patchy, not clinical, not that Hurricanes we're used to seeing. They still ended up putting a pretty good score on. So they kind of got it together towards the end, but this is not the Hurricanes team of last year as yet. Travel factor, so they've been from New Zealand to South Africa, to Argentina, and now back to New Zealand, all within a kind of a month. So that's a lot of air miles that they've been clocking up on, a lot of time zone shifts. So how much that's going to affect the team, like I say, it's going to be different to individual players, but it's definitely not a good thing. The Crusaders, have been in New Zealand the whole time, so definitely well rested. Not in terms of game, because they've had a game last week, but just in terms of not having to travel. I mean, they travel up from Christchurch to Wellington, but that's not really all that far. One good thing, though, for the Hurricanes is not really any new injuries. So they lost a couple of guys after that first week. But in that second game against the Jaguares, no real big injuries to report. So the travel will be their main thing. For the Crusaders, so traditionally they've been slow starters to the season. Apparently nobody told this year's Crusaders because they're looking pretty darn good. They've steamrolled both the teams that they've played, and the Chiefs and the Stormers so far. The injury list is long. Half the players haven't even played yet because they've not come back from injury for the start of the season. And to add to that, Richie Mo'unga, the kind of star 10 for the Crusaders, is out. Broken jaw, so he's having surgery on that. So Mitch Hunt is no slouch to take over the job, but you want Richie Mo'unga playing if you can get him. So yeah, it's their first away game, but like I said, it's not a heck of a lot of travel to go up from Christchurch to Wellington. So yeah, it's a pretty good game on paper. The bookies kind of unbelievably have this one at evens. They're not picking a favourite, so even money both ways. I think going on form, you have to go with the Crusaders. They've just looked the better team, but it's only going to take one game for the Hurricanes to switch it up a gear. So I guess you can kind of understand the bookies' reluctance to really push it one way or the other. If the Canes can pick it up a gear, it could be an interesting game. If the Crusaders can put on a full-on performance for 80 minutes and maintain that pressure, because the Stormers kind of will let back into that game or push their way back into it, whichever way you want to look at it. But yeah, if the Crusaders are strong for 80 minutes, then it could be hard for the Hurricanes. Should be a good game. Next one, I think also should be a good game. So two teams with even split records so far, 50-50. Both having played one home. Well, the Bulls have played two at home. First away game for the Bulls, but both having won one, lost one. So the Reds, kind of ground down the Brumbies last week. It wasn't pretty. They didn't score any tries. Everyone's going on about they didn't score any tries. They did come close to scoring a couple of tries. So they weren't just like playing atrocious rugby, but they were putting on a lot of pressure. So yeah, their set piece looked really good. That scrum was dominating a Brumbies team kind of renowned for their scrummaging. So yeah, something to look out for in this coming game. And Brad Thorne, in like a typical Brad Thorne fashion, the coach, has definitely put any like a dampener on celebrations if there were any for winning that game, because apparently on Monday he was just in the gym, just pounding the weights with the players. So yeah, there's no like day off for winning. You get your coach, who is a beast of a man, just pounding weights and probably making you look pretty bad as he does it better than you do. But yeah, so he's definitely very serious about keeping the team grounded and keeping them focused on this upcoming game. He's pretty much said that the Bulls are pretty strong players, so he wants his players to bulk up a bit if you can do that in a week. For the Bulls, so yeah, like I said, mixed results. They looked decent against the Lions at points, but kind of got pushed around to others. The forward pack will definitely want to step up from last week against the Reds team that looked pretty good up in the forwards. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know if anyone's quite as good as the Lions front row anyway, so hopefully that won't be too much of a mismatch. Hopefully we can get a bit of parity in the scrums. Yeah, I don't think the Reds will be quite as clinical as the Lions either. I mean, I'm not giving the Reds any grief here. They've got a lot of young guys who are coming through, and they look fired up. They kind of make up for what you have in experienced guys with that, youthful drive to kind of cement a place in the team. So it's a different beast from what you've got with the Lions, who are a lot of experienced guys, been to 2 Super Rugby finals with the Reds. But the Reds might not be quite as clinical, I reckon. And Odendale's back for the Bulls, probably. As I record this, teams are not out yet. So, but yeah, he's a great player to have back for the Bulls. So it's going to be a tight game according to the bookies. They've got the Reds edging it by like 2 or 3 points. Can the Reds score a try? If they can score a few tries, then I think that might put them in good stead. If the Bulls can get over the travel pretty quickly and front up at set piece time, then the Reds might not find that easy. So we will see. It's an interesting game in its own right. Not for the same reasons as the first one, because both these teams were predicted to do poorly. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Next game, Sunwolves Sharks. So I reckon this is kind of like a perfect game for one team and just like the worst possible outcome for the other. So the Sharks, they were kind of disappointing last week. They were predicted to beat the Waratahs and didn't get the result. Showed patches where they looked good, but just couldn't, get the job done. Still winless after 3 rounds, even though they've only played 2 games. Lacking a bit of cohesion, which I guess makes sense if you've had that bye interrupt your first and second game. I think this is the perfect time for the Sharks to get their season going. You got the Sunwolves coming to town who've got their own problems. They're travelling. The jet lag is fresh. They've just come off 2 home losses. You need to beat them well, get your players in a good mood, feeling good about themselves. You need to put a lot of points on and get that team looking good. Put Rob Dupree on for half the game, give Kerr and Bosch a go. Perfect game to test who's the better 10 kind of thing. So perfect game time for the Sharks. Pretty atrocious timing for the Sunwolves. So they've just lost their 2 home games, like I said, to conference rivals in the Brumbies and the Rebels. They've got an injury list kind of as long as your leg. And the trip to South Africa on top of it. It's just, it all kind of comes at once for the Sunwolves. They are predicted to get beaten by 20 plus points. So nobody's giving Sunwolves a chance. If the Sharks don't go out and put a bonus point win on the Sunwolves, then people are going to be disappointed. If the Sunwolves can get any kind of point, it's going to be a victory for them. We'll see what the Sunwolves' depth is like with all these injuries. From my preseason look at their squad, it didn't look huge, but they've still got a pretty good looking back row. It's the locks that I think they're going to have the problems, and the Sharks line out is pretty mean. So yes, it could be a big score here. That one's on at about 2 a.m, so I'm definitely not going to be able to see that one, unfortunately. Next game, Lions Blues. So you've got the team who are looking great against the team who are really looking pretty terrible. Lions started off the season again like the Crusaders, just in a steamrolling fashion. They started slightly slow against the Sharks, and then just blitzed the next 2 games. So Swiss to Brain has been kind of doing a bit of tinkering. He's brought in Deontay to the team, who's just looked amazing. And he's, he even tried Moss to it in the 7 jersey, and he looked all right. So, any worries about Ackerman leaving, making the Lions kind of drop down a level, seem to have been a bit premature. Swiss seems to be doing the job. I mean, still only 3 games, but early into the season, he's looking pretty good. And they'll be looking to just make Johannesburg a big fortress. They won't want to surrender any points to any teams visiting. And that includes the Blues, who can't even get a win against an injured Chiefs team at home. So now they have to go to Johannesburg. This is the Blues start that they all feared would happen before the season started. You saw this Lions game third up and thought they need to get a win before this game, before their African tour, because it's going to be hard. And they didn't do it. So they're none from 2. It's going to be really hard to get any points away for the Blues. The Lions are just looking so good, and the Blues are without Augustine Pulu, their captain, who's injured. So it's just, it's just not looking good for what's going to happen with the Blues this weekend. Bookies have got the Lions winning by 8. I think if the Lions only win by 8, even though the Blues are a New Zealand team and their conference was strong last year, I think the Lions are disappointed if they only win by 8. If the Blues can get a win, well, wonders never cease. If the Blues get a bonus point, I think they'll be pretty happy with that, given the state of the things so far. I mean, going none from 3 is a pretty bad start to the season, but you're playing one of the finalists from last year at home after losing 2 games. Take a bonus point. I'll take it right now. If someone offers it to me, I'll shake their hand and take it. So, yes, that one's on at 4 in the morning. So I'm still kind of deciding what to do with that one, because I either watch these 2 and sleep through these 2, get up for that one, or watch that one, sleep through these 2, and then get up for that one. I got up last week to watch the Lions at 4 o'clock and was not disappointed against the Bulls. But if it's the Blues getting a shellacking, I might want to sleep through it. Traitorous, I know. Imagine if they won, I'd feel so stupid for not getting up to watch it. In the last game of the round, the Jaguares are winless from 3, take on the Waratahs, who are undefeated. Who would have thought that after last season's performances? So Jaguares are desperate for a win. The season's not that long that you can go like 4 or 5 games without getting a win. They're at home. They've been at home for a couple of weeks now, so they need to get the thing sorted. Like, you've had your first stint in Africa and you've played the Hurricanes after travelling back from South Africa in kind of a messy game. Things need to settle. Things need to stick. They just need to get better. They're always tipped as a team to kind of maybe, in the last 2 seasons anyway, and this season, to maybe shake things up, to maybe, challenge some other teams, but it's just never really happened, and it's just looking the same. Is it really going to be a battle between the Jaguares and the Sunwolves for the wooden spoon this year? Yeah, well, we will see. For the Waratahs, they're already looking better than last season, which is not difficult because last season was pretty poor. It was kind of a big 2 points for them in Durban last week when they got the draw against the Sharks. Coach has come out and said he's not happy. Of course, nobody's happy to get a draw, but he's definitely not going to be unhappy to not lose anyway. Beale's still unsure about what's going to happen with him. I think they're going to leave his selection to the last minute. Like I said, teams aren't out, so they'll be kind of sweating on him. Hopefully he'll be back because he's a pretty important player for them. The Jaguares have to win. And the Waratahs don't want to be the first team to lose to the Jaguares. That is for sure. So it'll be an interesting matchup. The bookies have got the Tars winning by 3 or 4, so they're also picking it to be a pretty close one. All these games they're picking to be fairly close, except the Sunwolves one, which is supposed to be a blowout, and the Blues are supposed to lose kind of comfortably. We will see. So I could definitely watch the first one and the last one. It's kind of which one of Reds, Bulls, or Lions, Blues I watch. I've got a bit of time to think about it. I'll see how I feel that night or that morning. Let me know, you guys, what you think about the coming games. Do you agree with the bookies that it's pretty much going to be a tight one between the Canes and the Crusaders? Do you agree that the Reds, Sharks, Lions, and Tars are all favourites? We'll see. It seldom goes, if you ever played tipping games, it's seldom that the favourites win all the games. There's usually an upset of some kind, but so far Super Rugby's been kind of semi-predictable so far this season. We will see what happens. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon.